Hi everyone, it's me, Spring, the fiber enthusiast, and welcome to the channel. Today is my knitting journey. So on Monday this week, I put out my crochet story. So this is my knitting story. And again, it's simple, basic, not very big, but it's my story. So I'm here to share with you my story. All right, so I would say about 9 years ago, roughly, I wanted to learn to knit. My mother knitted, and she jumped in head over heels like before I was born and did a color work cardigan as her very first project. So yeah, here we are talking about mom again. Um, and it was for me. I think she said it had lambs on it or something. And anyway, that was like her first project. Me not so gung-ho right off the bat, but nevertheless, I did, I was inspired to also knit because my mom knitted and I loved her work. It was beautiful. And still do. She just can't with her hands anymore. She has rheumatoid arthritis and a lot of other issues that cause her hands not to be able to function as well as they used to. So I make things and gift them to her a lot of times so that way she gets some special stuff. So back on the knitting, I wanted to learn to knit. And like probably almost everybody that wants to learn to knit, what do we want to learn to knit for? To make ourselves socks, right? Of course. Okay, so I went and knowing absolutely nothing, asking no questions, I seen circular knitting needles, the cheapo hard plastic metal knitting needles from Walmart on sale. They were getting rid of whatever. And I was like, oh shoot, for 99 cents, I'll just grab this. No clue. No clue. And I just grabbed it. Still have them sitting over here. Still haven't used them. Still haven't used them. But they're over here. They're sitting over here. I just, whatever. I then went and, tried to cast on, couldn't figure it out. I left them hang up on, a hook and just left them there. And I said, okay, fine. Next step. The next step is let's get some knitting looms. Well, I went out and I said, well, if I'm going to get the knitting looms, I'm going to go ahead and get the kits. So I got the round ones and I got oval ones and I got long, long skinny ones and I got Afghan looms and said, well, duh, you want to knit socks? And they have these sock looms, these really cool looking sock looms. I got that. Then I seen the X loom and I had got it because you could make various sizes and all kinds of stuff. So I got all these knitting looms. I've used maybe 3 or 4 of them. I tried to use the sock one, got aggravated, quit using it. Yeah. So all of those looms are now to give away and get rid of because I'm never going to use them. I don't use them anymore. I used, like I said, just a few of them. I used, I think I had 2 Afghan looms, the big S Afghan looms. I used one of those one time. That was it. So now they both have been gifted and are gone. The X loom that I paid a big dollar for, it's gifted and gone. It's no longer here. Now I have the standard oval, the standard long ones, and the round ones. I have all of them to give away still. They got to go because they can't stay here. I don't use them. I'm never going to use them. They're going away. But I knitted on those. So here we are back to those. We knitted on those for, a while, just a few of them. And I made a few things, but I wasn't real happy with it. It still wasn't knitting. It was loom knitting, but it wasn't knitting. To me, I wanted to knit. So once again, I'm stuck. I really want to knit. So I said, okay, let's look into this a little bit more. Now, this is a couple of years now have passed. So we're now at like 6 years ago. And I said, let's try this Afghan hook. I had 2 Afghan hooks, and I said, let's try that. Let's do this Tunisian stuff and attempt to get the knitted fabric that I'm looking for. Still wasn't happy. I did it, but I wasn't happy with it. So in turn, I learned to do Tunisian. By doing that, I learned how to do Tunisian. Not a fan of it, but I learned how to do it anyway. So finally, I sucked it up and I said, that's it. I'm going to go and look into knitting more. So I said, okay. I went and I got something more along the lines of ease to use. Not DPNs. I went and got a set of interchangeable knitting needles. The Knit Picks there at Hobby Lobby, I bought one with a whole bunch of different sizes, and then I bought the extra for the bulky. And I said, this is what I have. This is what I'm going to use. So I came back and started poking around on the internet, on YouTube. This was prior to me doing YouTube. And I was poking around on the internet, looking and searching, and I ran across a wonderful content creator. I loved her immediately. She was so awesome and still is. I still watch her to this day. I just am not as active on her channel as I used to be because I have my own and it's hard to get everywhere. But her name is her channel name is Katrina's Creations Crafting Podcast. Now, all of the information is going to be linked down below because from this point forward is pretty much zoned in on her and her channel. There's a few things that I'll jump back to in a minute, but mainly we're going to go straight into her channel because she's the reason I learned and how I learned certain things, most of the things that got me started knitting. So when I started in on her channel, I said, I need to find something that I can understand how this works. Once I get an idea and a rhythm, I'm okay. So I decided to go with her Basic Stitches cowl. And I figured out how to cast on and looked at all these different ways of casting on and came up with, okay, I like this way best. I long tail cast on. Now, because I've been a crocheter for years and years, I hold in my left hand my yarn and I use my right hand for my working needle. So I'm a continental knitter. Well, Katrina is not. She's a thrower. My mother's not a continental knitter. She's a thrower. So she holds it in her right hand with her working needle and wraps like this. So when I watched, I had to figure out what I was doing because it was different. The way I was holding my yarn was most comfortable, was different. Well, at first I was twisting my stitches. I didn't know what I was doing. I was trying. And I learned that I was twisting my stitches. So when I was on a purl side, I changed it by the way that I purled. It fixed how my twisted knit stitch was, and so on and so forth. Well, years, go past, and eventually I fix all that. But still, that's part of learning. I would call my mom and I would say, hey, Mom, you want to video chat for a minute? She said, sure. So I video chat her and I turn the camera around and I start knitting. And she's like, you knit really weird. And it was because I held my yarn in my left hand as a continental knitter. She said, I can see where that would be faster, but that is so weird. So anyway, I'm like, okay, well, you're not going to be able to help me too much, because she didn't understand how I was doing things. It was different to her. So I said, okay, well, I'll just keep looking into, more into the way that I knit. Once I understood continental knitting, I was fine. Once I understood how I was twisting my stitches, I could fix them, and I did. I fixed them and made things a whole lot easier on the purl side. Now I don't fight with the purl side as much, type thing. But in retrospect, going back to Katrina and her channel, so the Basic Stitches cowl is awesome because it goes through a bunch of different stitches and how to create different looks. And I love stuff like that. I love things that keep my mind focused and entertained. Not a fan of counting, but hey, I'll count if it means to have that kind of outcome. So I did the cowl. Now, I don't personally have that cowl anymore. It is long gone. I got rid of it quite some time ago. I have made another one since then, and it went in a bag, I think, to go to donations. I think the first one actually went to Rose Likes Crochet for Wings. I believe that's where the first one went. The second one, I think, went to Bumblebee Mountain Outreach. I can't remember. But at any rate, the Basic Stitches cowl is a free pattern by Katrina, and it's over on Lovecrafts. Now, again, that information will be linked down below. So then, watching her and sharing pictures and doing a lot of, other crafts and the farm and stuff like that, she started showing off these little hot pads. And I'm like, I love that. I want to do that. So she made a tutorial on how to do this. I'm like, okay, I can do that. Well, I sat down and made a stack like this. I mean, I've gifted a bunch of them, and I still have a bunch of them. But, I mean, here's just 4 of them that I have here. So I made these, and in turn, by making these, I learned how to do short rows. Learned yet something else. Short rows is something you use a lot of times in socks when you're doing the heels and the toes. So that came in handy for that step towards making socks that I wanted. So that was next. I worked on those. Then she had at one point she had crochet my patterns, and we're going to have a giveaway at the end type thing. So I said, okay, I'm going to go find one of her patterns and work it up. Yet another one that had a lot of different stitches, because I love to learn. So this one is keeping ew in stitches, like an animal, an ew. An ew. Now, it is a paid-for pattern on Lovecraft. It is not one of her free patterns, but it is worth it to learn all of these stitches. So it is a shawl, and here we have this beautiful texture all the way through. Got some lace going on there, some eyelets coming up, some more lace, some more eyelets. And then we started at this end, and we just worked up to a certain number, and then it works out. So this is this style, like that. And I love it because this has like columns in it and stuff. It is so neat. So neat. I absolutely love this pattern. Again, learning a bunch of different stitches all in one pattern. So worth the paid for price. And it's not much. It's only $4. $4 to learn all of these stitches and have a product at the end. Heck yeah, it's worth it. So that was another one of her patterns that I worked on and did. Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, since then, I started making socks. I started learning and understanding what heel fit me best, what length I liked, what amount of stitches for what size sock yarn, sock yarn or up a little bit, or even doing a worsted weight just for like a slipper sock. I learned how to adjust all of that and find out what works best for me, my size foot, and I have made approximately 30 pairs of socks. Most all of them were for me. Just a few of them were purchased from me. So yeah, I have made a lot of socks just over the past probably 5 or 6 years, roughly, just for me. Now, of course, wear and tear, they eventually you got to make more because you wear your socks out. But I love my socks, and most of the time, I would say 99.5% of the time, if I have socks on, they're mine. I made them. I have very few store-bought socks. So that is how I got to making socks. And I went nuts making socks for the longest time, and now I can sit down and just whip it up. I found that I like the 9-inch circulars and then a set of DPNs or magic loop to finish them off, and there's my socks. So that is my knitting story as to where it started, who helped me the most. Katrina's Creations crafting podcast. If I had a question, she would do a video on it. If I asked her, she would respond if I needed help with something. She is an amazing person and a fantastic knitter. I mean, just does beautiful work, and I love to watch her channel. So if you don't know who she is and you enjoy knitting or crocheting, she does crocheting too, I would invite you to go over and check out her channel. She's awesome. She really, really is awesome. That is basically the story. And everything here on YouTube is always a learning experience. As I'm teaching you, I'm learning more myself. So I'm growing every tutorial I make, and you all inspire me to keep going by asking questions, by saying, hey, what would that look like if you did it this way? Or what would it look like if you did it that way? So each and every comment counts and helps me better understand my viewers and what they like to see and what I need to work on to better myself, so that way I can show you more content that you like and you can grow as well. So thank you so much to each and every one of you for your awesome comments. I loved hearing your stories on the crocheting story that I put out on Monday. And again here, I would love to hear your stories and understand where you're at, whether you're new to knitting or you're advanced or you're intermediate or you're just interested. Or maybe you just like watching people knit. That's okay too. But I would love to hear your story and your interest as far as knitting. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching and, joining me on my journey and my continued journey into knitting and knitting at different levels. All right, everyone. Be blessed. Be a blessing. And until next time, bye for now.